solo. I'm hot and solo. I'm hot and solo, solo. Yeah, I'm feeling good tonight. Finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. Gonna see a princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but an answer to. Ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carpet nights off me, I'm living life now that I'm free. Yeah, told me get myself together. Now I got myself together. Now I made it through the weather. Better days are gonna get better. I'm so happy the current night is gone. I'm moving on. I'm so happy that it's over now. The pain is gone. I'm putting on my shades to cover up my eyes. I'm jumping in my ride. I'm heading out tonight. I'm solo. I'm hot and solo. I'm hot and solo. I'm hot and solo, solo. Picking up my plaster, putting it on my side. I'm jumping in my Falcon, Wookie at my side. I'm solo. I'm hot and solo. I'm hot and solo. I'm hot and solo, solo. I'm hot and solo.
Okay. I can see you have some skills, but now it's my turn.
You know, it's funny. I should probably check. I am bidding on a copy of Connect Star Wars on eBay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was gifted. Actually, scratch that. I won a copy of Connect Star Wars.
Oh, really?
Yep, because someone gifted me an Xbox 360, so I
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, so I picked up a copy of it. Actually, where's that?
Don't you also need to have the camera or whatever?
Yeah, it was the whole kit and caboodle.
Nice.
Oh,
So-
that's very cool.
I'm having an issue with connecting us to Facebook tonight.
Hey, and photos already here. How cool is that?
Huh? Oh, nice. But yeah, for some reason, Facebook Live is not connecting with us tonight.
Damn,
Well, it wouldn't be this show without technical difficulties.
But we're on Instagram. If you guys could, I don't know if you could check. It says we're on Instagram. It looks like there's a pretty big delay on the Instagram feed. But it looks like we're on Instagram. Now it's here we go.
Maybe we can only be so social. That's the thing. We can't do all of the socials at one time.
I guess you can't be too social. Well, no, the Instagram also the Instagram cuts you like portrait. I mean, like portrait version. So we'd have to all like stand on top of each other if we wanted to.
Make sure you bend the knee so your side angle picture looks better.
Yeah. So, but here I'm going to turn this our QR code is in my face. So let me.
Yeah,
Porter
Mike.
wrote
Well,
that he was waiting for something to listen to while he's organizing stuff.
Oh, hey, we'll take it.
Counts as a win for this show.
But before we start our main topic, we should talk about the news that came out today. Or was it today and yesterday, right?
yeah, today and yesterday. Well, kind of. The news was yesterday. The exciting bit was today.
No, I thought both pieces came out yesterday.
Yeah, but the exciting bit was our backdrop for today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So the extra.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a way I can show that?
You can take our pictures off. That's fine.
I don't know. We can just make us all translucent or something. I don't know. But yes, the Dave Filoni drawing.
And I wasn't for the folks listening. John sent us the picture, and I hadn't seen like all the hubbub and everything like that. So I wondered if it was a Filoni sketch, and sure enough, it is. That's so cool.
Yeah. I was telling Ken before you got here, John, that I have a Filoni sketch on my wall because he drew a loth cat for Zoe when he signed something when Lizzie met him, and she said, "Hey, could you sign something for Zoe?" And he wrote her a little note and drew a little loth cat. I think it's a loth cat. It's either a loth cat or a tuca on a poster of I think it's Ahsoka.
Hmm.
So
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
I feel fancy that I have really fancy artwork
A
now.
Filoni original.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would. I think my Filoni original I would want to have would be like a napkin that he doodled. Like my if
Sitting at the table at the
that's what I'm
ranch.
saying. If someone said, what piece of Filoni art would you want? I would want it where I went to lunch with him and he doodled on a napkin and he just gave me the napkin. That would be because then you would have good art and a good story.
Yeah.
Speaking of doodles and art, so I'm listening to the George Lucas biography, and it's
Unauthorized.
unauthorized biography, and it's replaced podcasts for me for like the last week or something because there's just so much to it, and I find myself rewinding, putting those little digital bookmarks and everything as I'm listening to it. And one of the things that jumped out at me is when he was working on A New Hope, it's according to the biography, he would go back and forth with Ralph McQuarrie. So he would talk about it, draw a picture or something, share that with McQuarrie, and then McQuarrie would do his stuff. And I'm like, how come we never see those things? Like,
I know.
where,
Where's the book of that?
yeah, where's the George Lucas art book? He used to, his very first student film was an animation film, and he did animation with John Cordy, and he partially owned a comic book shop. But where are the George Lucas originals? That's what I want to know.
Well, and I wonder if that's where the story changed, and that's why you get the honor, because the story I always heard before that book was George give McQuarrie his writing, and McQuarrie, it seemed like more of like a one-way street kind of.
Yeah,
And I wonder if that just got lost in like sometimes PR has to just what's the short version? You know what I mean? Like no one can take the time to talk about that. So
and then that becomes the new truth, that
Yes.
shortened version.
Yes. And I see we have 3 people. So if you can, we know their Facebook feed is the stuff is working. I mean the YouTube. I don't know what else is, if any of the other chats are working. And I don't know how to see the chat from Instagram. So I don't want to open up Instagram on here and throw everything in a tizzy. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. That would be a good book. The Doodles of George.
Yeah.
George's Doodles.
Or even some more of the
John's like,
yeah, John's pondering. What is
I named the book.
he said George's Doodles or George's Duty?
Well, either works.
Well, yeah.
And like I've also been seeing, one of the things I do appreciate about social media is in some ways you get to curate your own feed to a certain degree. And my Facebook feed has become 97.5% Star Wars stuff, whether it's cosplay groups or behind the scenes photographs and everything. And I continue to see new photographs that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
So the working on the Gamorrean Guard, or the picture of Mark Hamill being on this like set of scaffolding and dropping into the snow when they were filming the Hoth sequence and stuff like that. Like, I would love to see a giant picture book of all of these behind the scenes photographs for all of this stuff, because even Ryan Johnson was walking around on set for The Last Jedi taking pictures.
Yeah.
So even if it was like like one picture book for each thing, including the Ewok movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember years ago I was hunting down behind the scenes pictures of Jawas because they were hard to find, like almost 20 years ago. When I started dreaming of putting the kids in Jawa costume. So yeah, that's crazy. All this, it's just I like my feed's the same way. It took a while because I was always doing stuff with Star Wars Geek Girl. So if you're not careful, Geek Girl is a totally different genre of stuff that you might not want to come and cross your feed.
Yeah,
as a married man, father of 2. And I finally got that somewhat under control, but I used to get some weird weird. It's like that meme. Like I looked up the wrong Star Wars movie or something like that, and it's so. But yeah, I was happy to hear that news. I'm just curious how season 4 fits in the movie, if it's before or after.
Yeah, because if it's in production now, that means, or at some point this year,
Yeah.
that means the script will probably be done shortly. Then, if production starts this year, we probably won't get a trailer until sometime next year.
Right.
And
Now,
then
are you talking about season 4 or the movie? Which one are you talking?
the movie?
Okay.
Right.
Because I think season 4, if this isn't the end, if this isn't like the conclusion, like they're doing 3 seasons in a movie, I would think that season 4 would not be until 2027, 2028. Because you got to think the movie will come out either late 25 or summer 26, depending on what their schedule is looking like.
Yeah.
But honestly, what I am more concerned about is how does this fit in with Dave Filoni's movie?
Yeah.
You mean how do the two connect?
Not how they connect, but because I assumed that Dave Filoni's movie was The Mandalorian and Grogu. Like I thought that was the whole.
See, I thought Dave Filoni's movie originally. So we'll call DF1 and DF2. So DF, the original DF, the Dave Filoni movie, I thought that was going to be like an Avengers kind of thing where
Yeah, that's what I was
you
always.
had you had Book of Boba Fett, you had Ahsoka, you had the Mandalorian, and they culminate into Dave Filoni's movie with the possibility of more seasons of the shows after that.
Now, and also, do you think maybe Dave Filoni's promotion changed things?
Well, I would say yes.
Like Dave might not be able. There might not be as much of a Dave Filoni in the sense that all the movies might now be Dave Filoni movies.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think that's a for sure thing because that's one of the things they highlighted with his promotion. When I say they, I'm talking the general generic J, they and like the media and everything. They were, from what I remember reading, is that now he's going to be overseeing all of
Right.
the Star Wars content instead of being tangentially associated. So, for instance, the sequel trilogy, he saw that stuff, he commented on that stuff, but he wasn't the decider of that stuff.
Right.
Whereas now in this new role, that chief creative officer, I think he'll be putting his fabuloso stamp of approval on all the stuff.
Either way, I'm just happy. I'm just happy that we're going to get something to go to the movies for. Because I was saying before you got in, John, that I wouldn't care if season 4 started with a movie, had a movie in the middle of the season, or a movie at the end. If I get to go sit in a movie theater with Star Wars fans, if I get to troop a movie again, any of that, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. That is the one thing that I hope that we can do is troop a release.
Oh,
because I feel like that would just be incredible.
And I tell you, I think back of all the movies we trooped, because we trooped a lot when Lucasfilm, well, even before that. But some of my favorite ones were where you trooped and you were like dead tired, and then they said, "Okay, you guys can all sit in a theater and watch it like at midnight with just us guys." You know what I mean? That was just so much fun.
Well, the one thing that you guys have over me when it comes to trooping movies is you get to your characters show up on the screen. So whether you're a TK or Kylo, so when fans of the movie or moviegoers come in, there's a possibility of looking at you and then seeing you on the screen in a way. But as a custom Mando, that's not there, and so I think to be able to troop as a Mandalorian at a Mandalorian movie, not the Mandalorian, not Din Djarin, but as a Mandalorian, the troop at a Mandalorian related movie will be really, really, really fun, and I'm absolutely looking forward to that time.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping, like with custom Mandos, I was thinking about this the other day, just thinking about trooping in general. And I was thinking, like, we have the droid hunt for the 501st, and the Mandos need something that lets all the people like meet up with every Mando on premises. Like it has to be. You almost have to make it like a mini rite of passage for a little kid, where they get something like marked by every Mando or something. Like
Yeah, that would be fun.
maybe every Mando wears like a ring they can just stamp So I don't know. Just the custom Mando thing is getting more and more in my head. So
Well, one of the things that was kind of cool about Fan Expo this year, Fan Expo Philly, that they did, is instead of just doing a droid hunt, they did a character hunt.
yeah,
And so they knew which people were going to be there for the most part, at least from the 501st end of things. So they had pictures of different troopers and pictures of different officers and stuff, and they had the kids going out looking for those folks, bringing them back to the table.
that's
So the kids were hunting for those characters.
yeah,
And I think it'd be a fun way of playing with that, the idea
yeah.
of hunting and getting the families involved.
Now, before we start our main topic, we'll just do a few other things. I would assume none of us trooped since we last talked.
Nope. No troopers for this guy.
Any costume building?
Nope.
I ordered the Vader belt buckle.
Yay!
It should be here. The guy gave me a good price. It's coming from London. And I went on the Vader, I think right after we podcasted last week, I went on the Vader building thing and I said, look, I need a belt buckle. Someone tell me, and they all give this one guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I saw the post you made.
Yeah, so I got DMs and all that, and I messaged him, and he gave me like one price, and it was fate, because when we were sitting here podcasting, I was cleaning a box, and I found a £5 note that was left over from when we were in London. So it was just destiny. You know what I mean? One of those stupid $5 bills with it looks like a hologram. It looks like a chase card of a stack of money.
Monopoly money.
Yeah.
Because it's a different texture too, right? The
It's a
paper's
different.
It's plastic, isn't it?
It's plastic, and it has. Hang on. I think I give it to Sappy. Yeah, I'm going to give it to Sappy. Yeah, it's weird. It was a different texture, and it has a little hole in it you can see through, like a little. It's like it looks like I should go be like Indiana Jones and line it up with the sun, and it'll show me where the.
Stick it on the staff of Ra.
Yeah. So, but yeah, let me see if I don't know. So I got that, and then today, so we didn't have, I didn't have work today. So Zoe got up and said, "Hey, is there any chance you can make a clone helmet for a friend of mine?" So I had one in the garage that I had cast. It was just raw. It was just out of the mold. So from 10 o'clock until just about 2 hours ago, I did a complete clone helmet. Cut, painted, weathered, lens in.
Wow.
And padding inside. So.
Well, I have a quick story.
Yeah.
So my friend, my girlfriend, and I was down there on Sunday. We were watching Lego Masters together.
Awesome.
And I love it. I'm so happy she showed it to me because I didn't know it existed.
Oh my goodness, man. Oh, I can't. No.
But we were watching, it was the Star Wars episode from the first season. They brought out a 3PO.
Chris Bartlett.
I hate that my first thought was, I wonder if that's Justin Sonfeld or if that's Chris Bartlett.
It's Chris Bartlett.
And I said that so casually, and they both looked at me like, "Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's of course that's who that is." And I just thought, I sat there thinking, I was like, "Yeah, that's how my brain works." So I just thought that was funny because I was, I don't remember, something popped up where it was you, Zoe, and Safi standing with Chris Bartlett.
Yeah.
So that reminded me of that. So
I tell you, that interaction with Safi and Chris is in my top 10 of Star Wars interactions of all time. You know, Ken was there to see it. You know, he was just such kind, like, just, and I think he's that way with everybody. I'm not saying he was doing it for anything special. But he kind of remembers me because I used to bug him for all kinds of stuff back in like '07. You know, like, hey, how's that Jawa thing? And isn't that, you know, so, but yeah, that's cool.
Well, he's managed to stay with all of this success. He's managed to stay grounded, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful to witness because before you got there, he had gone over and spent some time at the droid builders area and was talking with Dan, and I happened to be in that general area, and just all of us got into a conversation. And it wasn't even
Yep.
it wasn't uncomfortable, it wasn't awkward, it was just s- people enjoying their time together. There wasn't, I mean, yes, we recognized the fact that he's in Star Wars, he's in these things that we enjoy, um and it was just
Yep.
very, very calm, very cool, very fun. And it wasn't as if he was rushing between here and there. It was just awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
Well, and I would encourage anyone to go to his website, TK409. It's not 100% updated, but his website is really good. And his story about how he got his job with his sand trooper, I make my students read that all the time. So if you're looking for any, back in the day, he used to sell CDs of high res pictures of sand troopers. Like, it was only for a couple bucks, but when I was building my sand trooper, I bought the CD from him because it was just in '07. It was still a pain in the neck to get high res pictures on a computer, you know. So
Yeah, now we can send high res pictures around the world with our phones.
yeah, I know. It's like, do you want it super high res, or, you know, or you take a picture on your phone and you don't really want it that high res. Like I remember when it first started happening, I had to go through the office when Zoe was podcasting and stuff. I was like, okay, I got to make sure my bank statement's not out. I gotta make, you know what I mean? Because like you film a video and you could literally pause it and you could say, you know, because we used to have the Skype password on a post-it note on the computer. Like, oh, I got to take that down. You know, everybody be Skyping all over the place. So, have you guys seen this?
Heart of the Empire or Heart of the Empire?
It's a 500 First documentary.
No.
It's 2 discs. I have it. I had to buy it from Australia.
Can you play it on your computer?
I am going. I can. I haven't checked this new computer. My older ones I did. I'm gonna see if I can somehow get a digital copy for you guys to watch if you haven't seen it. It's a very good documentary. I would also say it's a good lesson on editing because they just left everything in. Like there's a guy just bitching about the 501st for like, and it was like the first 2 minutes was, oh yeah, I understand it, and then it was like, you know, there's always that one guy that just wants to keep going on and on about stuff, you know. So,
Well, speaking of that one guy, so we were talking about, you know, Dave Filoni, and he got promoted to chief creative officer, and they just recently announced that they're going to be putting out a Grogu Mandalorian movie. And in that same announcement, there was a brief comment. It might have been like 2 sentences about season 2 of Ahsoka's in production or
yeah.
something along those lines. And that was everywhere. And so I don't know why I step into this mix, but I'm reading through comments connected to this announcement,
Oh man.
and people are like, you can't believe everything you read on the internet, and you know, this hasn't been confirmed. And the people are like, this came from Star
Wars.com.
This came from StarWars.com. I mean, so it's not like Ken Bishop's StarWars.com or anything like that.
Even if you didn't think there was going to be if you watched Ahsoka and didn't realize they were going to do a season 2, you know what I mean? Like that was, I don't know. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was happy to see all that. I mean, I have the Zoe's live action soft goods from Simply Cosplay or something like that. I sent you guys pictures of her in her flight suit, right?
Yeah.
And it was like $160 shipped, which I know is a lot of money, but in the scheme of soft goods, that's a pretty decent price.
Yeah, I love how you say that's a lot of money, but did not immediately follow it up with for normal people.
That's true.
Yeah,
Well,
you say 160. I'm like, wow, that's a hell of a deal.
I know, but you have to say that because when I'm sitting at work and someone's like, "Oh, I'd like to buy a Star Wars helmet," and you're like, "Well, you can get one for like $100 for a Hasbro," and they look at you like, "What? $100? I was thinking like 20." It's like, and then I'm like, "Oh, don't even,
Yeah,
don't get me started on that." So
I love when people come into work or where I work and they're like, wow, who actually pays $130 for these? And I'm like, yeah, who would ever pay $130 for that?
I don't know of anybody who would do such a thing.
well, I'm also the guy like when I need a shirt and I go to the store and a polo shirt is like $9.99 on sale. I'm like, yeah, I could do with that. My shirt's it's only 6 years old. I mean, I'm wearing the same shirts to work that I've been wearing for 8 years. And so, but then if it's a stupid shirt with the C3PO on, I'm like, oh, $20. That's not bad. So, yeah, the fun. So anyway, I thought we would do Origins. So I don't know if this will work out well, but I was thinking of us three alone, and we have so many Origins just in common with us. Like we're all podcasters. There's an origin just in this podcast. There's an origin in our individual podcast. There's an origin in our reading of Star Wars books, origin in costuming, origin in toy collecting. And people have probably heard them spread out throughout our shows. But I thought we could just start with a few of our either favorite or least favorite origins in the somewhat related to Star Wars. And it can be like way unrelated if it's just something Star Wars. And I figure we'll start with John since he probably is younger than us and has less origins.
Probably younger. His origins are more recent.
He just has a really good filter. I'm just telling people that John's our age, but he has a really good filter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that one of those Instagram things?
Yeah, he's on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm not anymore.
Oh, yeah. I Snapchat. I only like it for the filter that makes you look like a little kid. I was used to do some tutorials as a little kid. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, do I really need to go any further? I mean, all of my recent origins are yep. Mike told me to do it, so I did it.
Well, I can't. I find that seems like a cop out on this show.
Especially considering, even if we just went the costuming route, your costuming story started before all of our interactions.
Yeah.
So why don't you start there?
Well, I mean, like I always, a lot of my costumes were like, cool, how can I throw this together as quickly and cheaply as possible? But it wasn't until I met Mike when, they started to be a little more refined. And I guess with the exception of my original Din Djarin costume, that was like the first one where I put a ton of effort, a ton of time, money, blood, sweat,
What was
tears.
your origin of that? Like what put you on that path?
I think it was just scrolling through Thingiverse and, it was right when season 2 started. And I saw the files on Thingiverse and I was like, okay, well, I have a 3D printer. I really like this costume. I want to 3D print this because, Din was, I think I've said this on the show before, but, The Mandalorian was like I almost call it my adult reintroduction to Star Wars, where it really just got me constantly thinking about Star Wars again. So, yeah, that's how the Din costume came about. And then when I met you, that's when I started and I saw everything that you were doing and Marty was doing. That's when I really started to kind of like refine some of the things I was putting together.
All right, Ken, give us one of your origins.
So I'll stay with that path and talk about costuming. I've liked Star Wars for a really long time, but never really thought about making the costumes. And it wasn't until going to some conventions around here. So I went back when Fan Expo was called Wizard World. Talked to some people in the 501st, talked to some people in the Mandalorians. They were actually at that time they were called the Mandalorian Mercs, the Mandalorian Mercenaries before the Mandalorian show, and we got our names changed to the Mando Mercs. We just gotten in contact with some folks, and in fact, one of them we've had on the show, Ned. Um, Went to some of these armor parties and just started working. And unfortunately, because the majority of the members of these groups were a fair bit away and it was before 3D printing really took off, I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out on my own. Even with the internet, still was not having much luck. And then got connected with the Pennsylvania Mando Mercs. And as goofy as this sounds, that group is closer in mileage than the North Jersey Mando Mercs. So the North Jersey Mando Mercs are like 2 hours from me. Philadelphia is 45 minutes from me. So I would spend time, driving up into around Philadelphia and getting help with my costume, and then finally got it approved after submitting. I think it was 4 times I submitted my pictures for approval that I finally got in, and I wasn't going to submit the fourth time. I submitted once. They gave me some things to fix. I fixed those things, and in the process of fixing those things, and I don't know if it was the same approval team that looked at my application pictures the second time, but in the process of fixing those things, other things got added to the list.
Oh, jeez.
And then the third time I submitted pictures, so when I submitted pictures the first 2 times, I had some of the people from the Mandalorian Mercs take the pictures of me. So they got me posed and took all these pictures. The third time, I had Heather take my pictures, and when I submitted the pictures, they kicked it back and said that the pictures were at the wrong angle, and they wouldn't bother looking at the what? Like, what do you mean the wrong angle? I didn't understand it, and I got really really annoyed, really frustrated, and I said that I don't want to waste my time. I can wear this to an event and it's fine. I don't need to be an official member. I don't need to be approved. And she said, "You've worked on this for a long time. You set out to be in the group. Just do it one more time. Reach out to Ned, see what happens." And so I drove 2 hours up to North Jersey with Ned and another one of the Mando Mercs. And at the time when we were doing the fourth batch of pictures, there was someone on the app team that they both knew. So we would take the pictures, send it to the person on the application team just to see if we were on the right track, if we were on the right path. And we took, I'm not joking when I say this, we took about 100 pictures
Hmm.
and just bounced them back and forth until finally we got the ones that this person on the application team said, yeah, these are the ones, these are the pictures you want to submit for your application. And I ultimately eventually got approved, but it was a long drawn out process. And when I submitted my application pictures, it was right near the beginning of the pandemic,
Mm.
and so I submitted my application pictures, and then they said, okay, nobody can meet. Like, you can't do armor parties, you can't cross state lines, you can't.
Right,
That's
right.
why I ended up, going, staying in New Jersey and driving 2 hours to go to Ned's house instead of going 45 minutes into Pennsylvania because we were told not to cross state lines. So it was quite an adventure to finally get approved as Kenix Gar Kabur.
Yeah. That's when I met you. I think I met you when you were working on the back grid of your helmet.
Yes. Yep, out in the middle of Frank's backyard, and
Backyard.
you were teaching us how to do some casting stuff. And
Yeah, I was just Zoe's driver, and he said, "Bring your molds." In. I was like, "Okay." So that's yeah. Well, I'll since you did costuming, I'll do costuming too. Mine started in '93. When did the internet start? '93. I think it was '90. Huh?
ish.
93 was when you could actually like look at things, I think.
That was like AOL times.
Yeah. We would just
American
go to the
Online.
post office and get all those free AOL discs, and you would just use one. You just had a different name for like every month. You got like because you paid by the minute. Remember, you got so many minutes of internet. Aren't you glad you didn't live then, John? Like, you know.
Yeah.
And you would tie your phone line up. So you had if you like, we actually bought another phone line just so we could have internet.
Oh yeah, in my house we didn't. Like internet was around, but we didn't have it.
Yeah, no, I had it like as soon as you could get it. Anyway, there was a white armor. They called it space armor or whatever, and I have the pictures. I've showed them here before of the armor that this guy was making, and it was $750. I was like, oh man, I was like, oh, I'm never going to afford this. But that paper kind of followed me along, and then 2006, when we sold our old house, so we moved here, and it was like the summer of 2006, and I was just looking around, and I found this 501st, and I said to Missy, look at this, and she's like, oh, well, you've always talked about buying armor. Why'd you buy some? So I researched and bought armor. Like I didn't really care about the charity. I just wanted stormtrooper armor. But back then, like they considered something shipping fast would be like weeks, So in the interim time, there was is it Yahoo Cities? Was that what was the thing before forums?
Yeah, that's that.
I think it was Yahoo Cities or something it was called. And that was like their forum, and they were switching over to the forum style. And then I just saw all that. I was like, "What? There's things you can wear, because I hadn't been to a comic book convention since the 80s. And in the 80s, especially around here, no one dressed in costume. Like it was literally just rows and rows of comic books, and maybe occasionally some toys, but there was no, so I hadn't seen anyone in costume. And I bought from, I forget the name of the company now, but they sell Stormtrooper, or they sell Biker Scout armor, which is really nice. Studio Creations. I bought my FX kit from Studio Creations, and I think I got it in, I want to say September of 06. I got it put together somewhat by, I think it was Halloween of no, I guess I got it in, I don't know. Whenever I got it, I think it was, I think I wore it for Halloween, but it was literally just Velcroed together, like pieces were falling off of me. And then I got approved on January 17th, 2007 as a TK.
Yeah, I saw the pictures you reposted.
Yeah, right?
Is your belt cloth?
That belt is plastic.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not going crazy, because I was like, that does not look cloth.
The original belt that came with the TK was just strips of ABS plastic, because the FX kit, if you look at any 501st pictures I would say definitely pre 06, almost every kit's an FX, and they were what they were stylized. They were what the Stormtrooper was supposed to look like. It was supposed to be symmetrical. It was supposed to be armor. When he was born. All right, I'm gonna go jump out.
That puts it in perspective for you right there.
But my first costume was I made an Elmo for Zoe's second birthday. I made a life-size Elmo. So
life size?
Yeah, I mean, I fit inside it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how big Elmo is. I guess
that's like 4X scale.
Yeah.
I think Elmo's like this tall.
Yeah. Look, human size Elmo.
There you go.
But the FX kit, it came with the belt, and the belt was just 2 strips of plastic, and they were a pain in the neck because it didn't really act like a belt. Like you had to load the one up with Velcro and the other up with Velcro. And unlike a cloth belt that kind of just hangs on you, it was constantly fighting to pop out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the major things I changed on the FX armor. But
And why did you choose? Why did you choose Stormtrooper?
I always wanted to be a stormtrooper. I mean, sand trooper was probably my first choice, but I thought I'll just get a storm. Like at the time, I thought a sand trooper was just a stormtrooper with a pauldron. So when I ordered the FX kit while I was waiting for it, I ordered a pauldron because I didn't know. And then all this, I was like, oh, I guess can't. And you can't really. It's hard to make a. You can't make an FX kit a sand trooper because you have to actually cut the plate out of the front. And if you look at a lot of those old sand troopers, the plate that they stuck in is a different plastic and it discolors at a different rate. So you'll see a lot of these old sand troopers and their belly, that little square that looks like a slot, it's almost yellow and their armor's just like a dirty white just because it was a different plastic.
Oh wow!
But I just always wanted to be a stormtrooper. It just, when I saw them go in the hall in New Hope, I was just like, that is the coolest thing ever. I had the Rubies bucket that came out in the late 80s. I had one of those. And it used to sit on my shelf. And then when I got my FX bucket, I was like, man, this Rubies thing's crap. So I sold it on eBay. You know, this new thing called eBay. I got that paid for almost half my armor for this that was a collector's item. You know, it was people wanted it. So, but yeah, that was my costuming origin story. And to just put a little bow on that, when we went to see Phantom Menace, and I know I've told it here before, but we have 3 people made it. Missy was going to do her hair as Leia buns when we went to see Phantom Menace, and I said to her, "We don't want to be those weirdos that dress up, do we?" So she reminds me of that every once in a while. So
It's still ironic.
Well, you know,
you tell her not to put Leia buns, and the first opportunity as a cognitive person, I go in full Kylo Ren.
I know. Well, I now I would, you know, like, you know, the stupid things there were certain points in my life, and that was one of those points in my life, you know, that was that I just wasn't thinking squarely, you know. So must have been all the fumes from the Chevy garage, working in the Chevy garage. Fordo's going to feel that when he works there. No. All right, so that's a good round of I think we have time for what? One more round of origin stories?
Yeah, let's hear.
All right, John, you pick another origin of anything related to Star Wars.
Oh boy. Am I the only one who remembers their first interaction with Star Wars?
No.
I doubt it.
No.
Well, I don't remember my first interaction. That's for sure. I don't. I remember there were lots of them, but I don't remember the first one.
Yeah, unfortunately, being old like me, I can, because I do remember a time before Star Wars. It involved a lot of $6 Million Man.
Oof. We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
And even though we're both old, I don't know if I'm as old as Mike.
No, you are not.
Yeah, because
when Star Wars came out, I was 2.
9.
Okay, so you got me by a couple years.
I was -22.
All right, John, what was your first interaction with Star Wars?
So I know for a fact I've told this story before, but I can remember it clear as day. I was flipping through channels at my grandparents' house. I was just scrolling through. I was probably 4 years old, maybe. And you know, because both my parents worked, so my grandparents watched us during the day. So after I got out of school, I would, you know, just go through, eat buttered crackers, and watch TV. So I was just scrolling through, and I saw The Empire Strikes Back. So I just clicked on it, started watching it. It was when when Luke and Vader are in the carbon freezing chamber, and Luke is up in the rafters, and Vader cuts the one pipe, and Luke turns around and sprays it in his face. My grandma comes in and sees me watching it, and she was like, "Oh my God, you know, you're watching Star Wars. Your dad loves Star Wars, blah, blah, blah." And she starts pulling out all of like his old toys, sheets, all this stuff. And so in a lot of that stuff is still stuff we have in our collection today. Like we still have his original Millennium Falcon that we've since restored it, so it's, you know, it looks better. But yeah, no, just sitting in my grandparents' house watching The Empire Strikes Back, and ever since it's been the number one most watched thing of my life.
I pictured it you opening a cabinet of your dad's house and just being
Like flooded with the stuff.
like, you know.
I mean, at 4 years old, that's kind of what it felt like. It was just like someone just opened the floodgates, and you know, and I remember there's a store near us. It's still open. It's called the Toys Time Forgot. For Christmas that same year, my dad went and got me a ton of old, like vintage Star Wars stuff. And I remember I got the Power of the Force X-Wing, the original Kenner pilot Luke, Han, Lando, Chewie, Leia, R2 and 3PO, and Vader. That was my, and I think I got Obi-Wan too. But that was my first Star Wars Christmas, is getting all of these old action figures, and the X-Wing is special to me, which again, that's another one I still have. But yeah, so that's my first soiree with Star Wars.
Yeah, sadly for me, I don't have any of the toys I had when I was a kid. I remember having so my parents were divorced when I was young, and so I'd spend some weekends with my dad and lived with my mom and the rest of the time. And they made it so that some toys stayed at my dad's house and so at home with my mom, it was G.I. Joe and Transformers. And my dad's, it was Star Wars toys. And so I remember having the Ewok Village. I
Mhm.
remember having the Chicken Walker, and I don't know how I got them because, like I said, I was two when Star Wars came out. I had the Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber in the arm, and the Darth Vader with the lightsaber in the arm, and the Darth Vader collector case that you know, open it up and have slots for your figures and stuff like that. And then when I stopped going to see my dad around 9 years old, just those toys just stayed there, never got them. And so I have no idea where all those things are now, and I've since made up for it as an adult collector. I've picked up, you know, I don't have, you know, nearly as many of the toys from then, but I have far more toys than any adult collector probably should have. And I wouldn't even describe myself as a collector, more of a accumulator. Like I find I find these toys in my shopping cart and my grocery bag, whatever. They just show up at home. Even after telling Heather this year, so I'm not going to buy any more action figures until I get my next costume done. And that idea was out the window the first week of January when I came home with Balin Skull and Shinhati as Black Series figures. I'm like, how does this? I said no, and already have accumulated two more. So
Yeah, I was trying not to get any action figures, and then I ended up with Star Killer somehow.
Yeah.
well, for me that one didn't count because that was a gift on Christmas. Yeah, so I didn't purchase Star Killer. That was gifted to me.
I've done pretty good on that. So I'm gonna kind of go into your origin stories with the Star Wars toys, because my Star Wars toys. I remember when I went and saw the movie. I mean, I don't remember when. I just remember when I saw it, it changed everything. But I remember after seeing the movie, I wanted the toys, which weren't out, and I wanted anything Star Wars. So my first thing, they got me like the giant comic book. I think there was either it was an oversized one or something. It was the
Yeah,
movie.
two Marvels, two of the Marvel ones.
Somehow I got those, which was kind of weird because my only comic books we used to get were from a little like a bodega in Coatesville, and I would read all the other comics at the barbershop. It's an old Italian barbershop, and he would just have stacks of comic books to keep the kids shut up. But I remember waiting for the toys. Like there was no way they were buying me that cardboard like that.
The early bird thing.
That wasn't going to fly with my grandmother at all. So we got like Micronauts and whatever other toys that were like Star Wars adjacent, you know. But I remember when the Star Wars toys came out, and all they had were, when we got there, all I had money for was the I had saved. My great grandmother used to give us silver dollars, like real silver dollars, which now I think back, what an idiot spending them on Star Wars toys. Um, but I remember getting 2 Jawas because my grandmother, it drove her nuts that Chewbacca cost the same amount as a Jawa. That my grandmother didn't understand. She's like, wait a minute, this little tiny one costs the same as,
Well, and let's rewind to the price that they were then.
$1.59. $1.59. But I remember I had enough money to get R2, 3PO, 2 Jawas, a stormtrooper, Chewie, and the land speeder. So Chewie and the stormtrooper were best buddies, and the C3PO and R2 would go on the land speeder. Though I hated putting R2 on the land speeder because he went on backwards. It drove me nuts because he's supposed to have feet facing, back. So that used to drive me nuts. And that was cool until C3PO. Once you play with C3PO for more than like 20 minutes, then he was all limber. Like when you first got him, he was all, he was painted solid. So
Yep.
the first couple times he would stand and do everything perfectly. But that was my intro to the Star Wars figures. And then I had them up until right before the Clone Wars came out. I had all my figures. I had all the originals. My original TIE fighter, my land speeder, and I had probably half of the Empire Strikes Back figures and stuff. And the girls didn't like them. Like when they didn't like to play with them. So I wound up selling them on eBay and taking one. I remember taking the girls to Target one time, and I said, "You have $350 to spend on Star Wars figures." So they were just like going nuts on the Clone Wars figures. So yeah, that's my origin story for the toys. But now I've slowly got out of the toys. They haven't been able to suck me in yet. I mean, though those vintage ones are really kind of cool. Those kind of hit me a little better. They hit me better than the Black Series, for some reason. So if I stay out of Ollie's because they're so cheap that I could, if I'm not careful, I could wind up just walking out with a bunch.
with the whole set.
Yeah, so I just like action figures that stand, and so there for a while, like it was just such a nightmare. I had to buy the girls. I had to go on Entertainment Earth and buy packs of bases because the girls like to stand theirs up, So
Don't need to worry about standing them if they're still in the box.
yeah, I go back and forth with that too because I love keeping things in the package, and then I hate when I see stuff in the package.
Yeah, my line that I have recently figured out is Lego.
Yeah.
Everything else I'll keep in the box for the most part, unless it's something that looks so cool that I want to be able to display it.
Yeah.
Lego's the one thing that it's like, I don't care how valuable it is. I don't care what, if it's super rare and not meant to be open. Legos are meant to be built. I will build my Lego sets.
Well, see that mentality just really baffles me. Because I was lucky enough to talk with some of the guys from Kenner, and I gotta say, it's probably for me, it was one of the cooler Star Wars exchanges I've ever had. Because as like I said, as a kid, I played with the toys.
Yeah.
And they were cheaply made. They were sold cheaply. In fact, one of the guys used to say that he's in the landfill business. They were meant to be disposable, meant to be played with. And now we're at this place where folks are legit looking at it not as the plaything, not as the fun thing, it's as the investment thing. Where I, even to the point where, I mean, the card backs I thought were always cool. So
Yeah.
the GI Joe card backs were awesome because it told the story on the back. It was set up to look like a file card, and it gave their code name and their hometown and their favorite food and all that stuff. And I would cut them out and put them in a little plastic container and fiddle with them that way. The Star Wars card backs were cool because from what I remember of them, they'd often have the line. So, here are the 16 Star Wars toys that you need to get in addition to the 2 that you have. But now we're at this place where the boxes have like fancy paper on them, and they're iridescent and all this kind of stuff. So you're paying money for the box. You're paying money for the action figure that doesn't perform any action other than staying in the box. So it is kind of a weird thing now when
Well,
it
and I
comes.
think John's generation is probably the last generation to really play with action figures. Like, because I don't. When I first started teaching 22 years ago, kids still, even middle school students, still would bring in action figures or talk about action figures. You know what I mean? And you don't hear that at all. Any like that's like because I run a Star Wars fan club now with my middle school kids. None of them have any figures. Like it's just not. You
Well, I
know,
can remember in school that if you know kids would bring all their toys in, and if your toys were a distraction, the teacher would either tell you to put it in the cubby, or they would put it in their desk. The
yeah,
teacher would put the toys in their desk until the end of the day when you could get it back.
yeah.
Now, to your point, they don't have the action figures. It's a digital landscape. It's a digital plaything, or now everything is done that way.
Which is a shame. I mean, I like the toys as collectibles. Like I appreciate the people that like to collect them. I don't. It's just I'm at the point where I look at the room I have and the stuff I enjoy, and like the Black Series helmet. I enjoy looking at a Black Series helmet out of the box, sitting on a shelf more than I enjoy that same amount of money. Like if someone said, "Here, spend $109 at GameStop," I would get a Black Series helmet or whatever they are, rather than, even though for some people it's the other way around, which I completely understand. And I'm with John with the Legos. Like, I wish I could get back more into Legos. I used to really like Lego set. But I think Legos are one of those that's probably the holdout for toys. Like that's what kids. I do have students who are like, oh look, I mowed this and that and that, and I went and spent $200 at the Lego store. I do still have kids that do that,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
So I
And
mean, it'll come back around, but I think like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it will, because
well, I don't know
even
if
with
I'll play with it, but I see what I see with figures now is I see the kids who are using their cell phones to do photography.
yeah, because that is become super duper popular.
Yeah. So I mean that's going to be someone's origin story in the sense that, look, I got these figures and I lit them here and I did that, and
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
and
And
that
Fordos talks about some of the stuff that we've mentioned, kind of joking around in the past,
yeah.
that you buy one to play with, and you store one.
Well, I used to do that with comic books. I used to, buy two or three and the same thing, just put three aside, you
I
know.
mean, it's not like a Yoda animatronic Christmas decoration. It's nothing like that.
Well, that's I'm telling you, you have not been to a Halloween. That's not going to be a Christmas decoration. That's going to be a Halloween decoration. We have the part of my Halloween thing this year is Marty is bringing his DeLorean, and we're going to set up a Back to the Future segment of my haunted walk with his DeLorean. You know, oh yeah, that SNL commercial you sent, yeah, that you
Yep.
know.
That encapsulates everything.
But the other thing that changes with toys, and then we can end on changing it, how they were packed. Like if you get a vintage in the box Millennium Falcon, there's no way to tell if it was vintage in the box. Like all the pieces were loose. The box was held together with like a piece of tape. Like I don't know how many times like we would just, because my grandmother would leave us for hours in the toy aisles. She would go to Sears and say, "Okay, now you stay here until I come pick you up." And we would literally just stand, shake boxes, read boxes, like for hours. That's all we did. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have cell phones.
It's funny that you say that part too, because so this past weekend, Heather and I went on a little adventure into Philadelphia, and we're on the way home, and we weren't done adventuring. And she said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, let's go over here to see what they have." I said, "Why? Why do I want to go see what they have? Because I've told you that I don't want to buy anything because it's 2025."
And your next adventure should be Hollywood Heroes.
Well, it's definitely on the list. That is for sure.
I'm just telling you, even if you spend money in his store, you will get more stuff cheaper than what you will in the
Oh,
store.
I'm sure of it. But when she was talking me into going to the store, she said we can just go see what they have. You don't
Oh, no.
have to buy
We could
anything.
get one potato chip and let you smell it.
Like nobody says you have to buy it. And I want the world to know that I absolutely adore and love Heather, and I think it's funny that she told me to do exactly what you're talking about. Let's go to the store and we'll just look at the toys. You have adult money. You do have a certain amount that is discretionary that you can play with or whatever. But she's enticing me to buy the things I said I'm not going to buy.
She
You know,
wants to keep you happy, Ken. There is something to be said with just looking at like I do miss.
the hunt.
Yeah, that's it. I remember when I was collecting Amazing Spider-Man comic books. I got down to the last 10. There was no way I was going to ever pay that money. And I lost interest in collecting comic books because I had taken a decade to collect all those books and I had nothing. Like I had this beat up old notebook with crossouts and this and that. And I was literally, it was 1 through 9 and like number 15. That's all I needed. And there was no way I was going to get them. Back then I think Amazing Spider-Man was only going for like $1,500, but I was not going to pay $1,500 for a comic book, you know. So, but that's a good origin story. We have so many other origin stories we could do. I was thinking we can end tonight and we could do an origin episode slightly more scripted for our podcast day.
Yeah, we could do
We're
that.
going to do an episode that people that might listen that don't normally listen, they haven't heard our stories before.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And just for everyone that is listening, in case you don't know what podcast day is, so on February 7th of every year, we get together and release Star Wars related podcasts because it was 25 years ago on February 7th, the first Star Wars podcast was put out there into the universe. And this gentleman named Daniel gathers all of these podcast shows together and promotes them on various social media platforms. And so, the Beskar Bucket is going to be having an episode. The Rambling Star Wars will have an episode. Rambling Star Wars Fan will have an episode, and we'll have one. So yeah, I think our podcasting origin story could be a fantastic one.
Yeah. So thank you for the 3 people that helped. I'm not watching on anything, so I'm not one of the 3.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I'm not watching anything. So we have
appreciate
3 legit
listeners, and you put up with us for an hour and 2 minutes, and we're going to end this, and you'll get to see our lovely outro. Then I'll probably cut short so we can try to. I think I am going to add different music to it, so I don't have to keep blanking it out for a copyright violation. For some reason, the intro does not get us a copyright violation. I don't understand that either. So,
well, Fordo, enjoy getting your stuff organized, and thanks for spending time with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Dun, dun, dun.
Starships, but then my Falcon's hyperdrive just slipped. I used to worry about the future, but then I threw my caution to the wind. I had no reason to be carefree, no, until I took a trip to the treetop side of town. Yeah. You know, I heard that wicked rhythm. Hey, I had no choice but to get down, dance. Woo! There's nothing left for me to do but dance. All these bad times I'm going through, just dance. Got cash shaking my heels tonight, baby.
No disrespect to my man here, but you ready for the real deal superstar?